Hello guys, Joker the Fool here, back at it again with the 92nd episode of the Braxcast, and this is an exciting one because we've got more Dirty Deeds. Of course, Dirty Deeds was the real standout of the Ripazine short stories, even though I don't think Salvage is probably the best of the Ripazine short stories that we've gotten so far. Dirty Deeds really enamored the fans when it came out as a short story in the fourth issue of the Ripazine. This is, of course, written by Carol Brown and with the art done by Evan Scale. And people absolutely loved it. This got nothing but positive responses from the fans. I was, of course, very much on board with there being more Dirty Deeds. And now we have that as a Dirty Deeds seemingly ongoing series. This is, of course, the first issue. This is going to be a 56-pager. Apparently, they're going to crash a wedding, but this main thing is focusing around these astronauts called the humans that the Dirty Deeds crew, or the Motley crew whose ship is the Dirty Deeds, find and then have to bring back home. And of course, all the while they're escaping the law and getting into all sorts of trouble. This very ragtag group of, well, would-be sort of heroes. They seem like anti-heroes. But we are going to go over all of the covers, then cover some of the select interior art. There's 3 pages. I got 2 of them printed out, but this is, of course, all of the covers and the save on printer ink, because I'll always like to say printer ink costs more than human blood. My ink cartridges always seem to go very quickly, but these are all 4 covers. So of course we've got the A cover done by Evan Scale. Evan Scale colors and does the art on this, and this is a fantastic runaway scene. It's very fantastic art. Just really encapsulates the what the Dirty Deeds really are known for. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit here so you guys can get a bit better of a view. This is absolutely, like I said, Evan Scale's cover is absolutely fantastic. It's a really great main cover. You've got the Dirty Deeds crew just running away from chaos that they most likely caused. And you just have this wonderful perspective. You've got this very sci-fi feel to it. Of course, Evan Scale does have this manga influence, as some of you guys were saying on live stream. Some people might not like it, but I personally like Evan Scale's style. And as I said when I was going through the Ripazine number 4 on the episode of Braxcast, and I did covering it, that his art is probably some of the best that I've seen from the Rippaverse. And of course, it's saying a lot when you've got heavy hitters like Joe Bennett and Will Conrad and Jack Herbert and Cliff Richards all putting in fantastic work with the interior art that they do. Evan Scale definitely holds his own. And again, you got Will Conrad there as well, just to add to the mix of like fantastic artists. Evan Scale definitely holds his own, and I'm really glad that he and Kara are getting more work and really getting to flesh out the Dirty Deeds crew. So, of course, we've got cover B. This is Kanan White and Marcos Barton. This is going to be a version wraparound cover. So by version, you're not going to have any of like the logo or like the number 1 or anything like that. It's just going to be showing off Kanan's really illustrious artwork and a fantastic wraparound. So probably am going to use that as the reading cover. Well, I'm not sure if I'll be reading cover, but definitely one I'll take out of the bag and board and show off when I physically get it. This is, of course, going to be fulfilling sometime Q1 2026 is closing, I believe, January 30th, 2026. And it will be fulfilling in that first quarter of 2026. Very exciting stuff. And as of filming this on Friday night, usually Saturday morning, but doing this Friday night, over $20,000 in sales, over 500 books sold, probably going to be more than when you're watching this when this goes on Saturday. And of course, over the course of the collection, this is probably going to do pretty well because, as I said, the fans are very much so responding to this positively because they responded to the first one positively. And this seems to be giving everything that the fans want. Of course, next we've got the C cover. This is done by Brau Aguirre, if I'm saying that correctly. Fantastic cover. This is, of course, Rinlin, all of her glory. This is the foil and embossed cover. This is one I'm getting the signed and graded of, as I said, a live stream. Definitely a fantastic one to do a signed and graded, or a foil cover, excuse me. These are all signed and graded, or you can get them all signed and graded. I just don't have that in the budget, as I've made very clear. But this is a fantastic wraparound art. This is a fantastic foil embossed cover. Got this wonderful like single shot of a character, which typically is what cover C's have been. From what I've seen, of course, we have, I believe, Item 2 cover C, which was done by Shane Davis. That was a pretty awesome foil embossed one. And you've got I believe one that Will Conrad did. I'm not sure if that was a cover C, but you got lots and lots of covers like this that just show off one character in all of their glory, and I certainly am here for it. So finally, what we've got here in cover D is by Igor Texera and Marcos Martins, and this is like a movie poster version. This is going to be the mass print cover. Definitely a fantastic one to have as the mass print cover. Hopefully, this is one's going to stay in stock. And like I said, seemingly going to be an ongoing series. So of course, this first one is going to be a 56-pager. It's going to be covering the Motley Crew, and I believe their ship is called the Dirty Deeds, and we get to see some of just the absolutely fantastic art. Going to zoom in a little bit here. I mean, just the background work in this, like you can see just like how detailed it is and how it does not take away from any of the character design or making things look clear. It's just a real testament to how good of an artist Evan Scale is, and you really saw that when you read Dirty Deeds, the fourth issue of the Ripocine, which if you haven't gotten it, I recommend you guys getting this. And this does seem to be something where number one is you can just jump into it and you won't have any sort of won't be lost at all. Because this seemed to be like it's going to be starting at a decent beginning point for them. And of course, the first, that short story in the Ripocine, the Dirty Deeds, are already established. It's not their origin story. Caro didn't really write that as their origin story. I would love to see how this group formed. There definitely is a bit of an implication of that in the trailer. You see Spingy with a male character who's like an astronaut, like being accepted. So you could definitely have this idea of like Spingy's past and Arad's past and Rinlin's past all sort of converging into how they met. But that's probably something that's going to be like a number 0, which again, Rippaverse has never done a number 0 issue, which I would really, really love for them to do. I think a Dirty Deeds number 0 will probably be a very justified thing for them to do. Of course, you could make it like a big, like 96 to like 150 pages, just that. Sure, I would absolutely love to see something like that. But that is definitely something down the line. Let's give Evan and Caro some time to establish this series, whether it's ongoing, whether it's limited. Like I said, I haven't seen, as of recording this, any confirmation of this being a limited or ongoing series. If Andrew's watching this or some other Rippaverse staff are watching this and they can confirm that this is going to be an ongoing series, which is what I hope it is, because Dirty Deeds is really, really interesting. I definitely think it's worth having an ongoing series for this. That can be either confirmed or denied into being a limited series. But I think this is an ongoing series because typically, if it's a limited series, they're very upfront with that. They're upfront with that with Norfolka and Great War Separation, which are the 2 limited series that the Rippaverse currently has. To my knowledge, everything else is an ongoing series. Sersha was announced as an ongoing series. Horseman was announced as an ongoing series. And of course, Salvage, and this is all during the Rip Reveal, was announced as just basically going to be a one-shot graphic novel, which I'd love for Salvage to at least be a limited series, but that is neither here nor there. But like I said, just this fantastic art, just this use of like the background work, the character designs, the coloring, and of course Evan Scale does the art and the coloring for it, which is pretty rare for basically any artist to do these days. Although you do have artists that do that. Narwhal is a great example of someone who does stuff like that. But Evan's style is definitely much more refined is probably the better way to, the good word to use. Less abstract is probably a bit more kind of a word to use, even though I like Narwhal's art and I think he's a fantastic artist. Evan definitely has a style that's going to be much more appealing to a lot more people. It takes a special kind of person to like Narwhal's art, but he's definitely found his niche. But he's just a really great example of someone who does the art and the coloring, and he does a really good job, both Narwhal and Evan Scale. And this is a really epic, this is like you got a one-page spread here, and then you've got a panel here that just shows and emphasizes the action. Again, gotta love these like sci-fi, like the hyperspace, and lasers and everything. Just really emphasizes just the not only the skill of Evan Scale, but just this sci-fi setting, and it just looks very engaging, very gripping. This is going to be 56 pages of pure action. I believe this is page 12. When I downloaded this on my computer, it said this was page 12, and this page right here, I believe, is page 3. So it seems like it's going to have a pretty clear structure. There's apparently going to be a wedding crash. There's going to be bounty hunting, all these sorts of insane, crazy things. So this is a pretty inherently interesting premise. Like I said, they go through a wormhole, they find stranded astronauts, and they're trying to take them back to their, I guess, home world. And all the while they're evading the law and they're getting into all sorts of trouble, which is seemingly what this group likes to do. That's why, their ship is called Dirty Deeds. It's just another dirty deed we do. And that was in the Ripazine #4 trailer. So I absolutely love the ethos of this of this crew, of the Dirty Deeds crew. And that is really, I think, why this is getting Dirty Deeds getting an ongoing series, or at least a series, whether that's ongoing or limited. Like I said, I can't 100% confirm that, but the fact that we're getting more Dirty Deeds is because it's a very interesting premise. The execution in that 16-page short story was impeccable in terms of the art, in terms of the story. Caro did give us a pretty interesting story, even though there was a lot that she compacted into those 16 pages. I'm really excited to see what she does with a 56-pager, and with the promise of there being more Dirty Deeds, how she's going to structure this story when she knows that she can breathe a little bit in terms of having more pages to explain things and let these characters actually develop, let the plot lines actually be more established plot lines. And I'm really interested to see stuff like, are they going to do origin stories? Are they going to introduce new characters? Or are they going to be character deaths? There's just a lot of interesting things. And then, of course, this always leads to the question, if we're talking about the Rippaverse, are there going to be crossovers? So I'm going to zoom back out, I guess, a little bit. It doesn't matter if I do or don't at this point, but there being crossovers. Of course, Zalon is going to be the character that a crossover would make the most amount of sense if they encounter Zalon, how that would go. Absolutely fantastic to see if that would happen. Of course, I would say Yaira or the Void Scarabs. So you could have Maggot, well, not necessarily Magus Numite. I guess it depends on the timeline. You could have Magus Numite or any one of the Void Scarabs. Perhaps you could have Yaira, but as her, well, the spoilers. But anyways, I don't want to necessarily get into that Yaira-free territory, but they could encounter Yaira, whether she's known as Yaira or somebody else. Read Yaira free and you'll know the answer to that. But there's just so many possibilities because the Rippaverse is not just confined to Fluorspark. So of course, Dirty Deeds way out of the scope of Texas. And we have that in characters like Zalon, in Yaira, in the Void Scarabs, and of course Dokuman as well, being this ever ethereal being. Could they encounter Dokuman? Most likely not. I would put my money on it being Zalon or someone associated with Zalon. Maybe they run into Bong or Tala, who's our crewmates of Zalon, or maybe the green aliens that Zalon has as part of his crew. They run into that ship, and they're the reason why the commander gets taken out, and then Zalon takes that. That's just a really crazy speculation. So there's a lot of things I could speculate on all day. Even with how little we've gotten into the cosmic aspect of the Rippaverse, we still have that ability to speculate. And it's mostly surrounding Zalon's story, which again, really interesting, and I would love to see them go toe-to-toe with Zalon, or at least have some conflict with Zalon, because Zalon's ethos, his modus operandi, is going to be in stark conflict with the Dirty Deeds crew, right? So it'd be really interesting to see a crossover between those two characters, or Zalon and the Dirty Deeds crew, I really ought to say, and see how that reacts, how that's written in a way where they actually survive, because Zalon is a very, very tough guy. And of course, he's probably the most powerful character in the Rippaverse. That is my opinion. That seems to be the basically universal opinion of the community. So to have him pitted against the Dirty Deeds crew, I think that's the most likely of characters that we know so far in the Rippaverse, and that would also be probably the most interesting as well. But I'm going to leave it here, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Joker is out. Thank you for tuning in to the Braxcast. Be sure to like, comment, follow, and subscribe to keep up with the Rippaverse.